Hi and welcome to another video in my romance series, and in this one I'm going to talk about historical romance that I recommend, and this is my genre. Like, historical is where I live and breathe. Like I said in my Why I Read Romance video, historical was not my first romance novel, but it's really where I hit my stride. I feel like I kind of almost cleaned my library out for a while there. Like I was devouring them like a crazy person. And I have some authors that I just love and adore and want to talk about. So the first one I'll talk about is Sabrina Jeffries. She writes really, really steamy reads. The first time I read one of her books, which was actually this book, Never Seduce a Scoundrel, I was like fanning myself. I was like, what is this? Like, I thought I had read romance. I had been reading romance for several years at this point, but these books were just crazy steamy. I didn't know what to do with myself. But they're really, really good, and she has some really interesting series. This one is the first in a series called The School for Heiresses, and it's about several different girls and then the woman in charge of this school that helps these girls. And then she has another series, I don't remember what it's called, the Royal Brotherhood series, and this is my favorite one. And actually her books, like a lot of other historical romance, even though there's set series, the series interact with one another. So one of the guy in this book, his younger sister gets a book in the School for Heiresses and series, and that series takes place after this first one, so it's following up on events that occurred in this book. This one I think is an amazing. It's To Pleasure a Prince, and it's about a girl who everyone thinks is really uptight and cold and just cruel and everything, but really she's just protecting herself because she has dyslexia and she can't read, and she knows people would look down on her, so she purposely pushes people away. And then there's this guy, and he's people don't like him because they think he's kind of like a monster and everything, and they end up falling in love. It's beautiful. I just really like Sabrina Jeffries. She writes really fun, like I said, steamy reads, and she has some great series. Another good series is the Hellions of Halstead Hall, which the first one is The Truth About Lord Stoneville. And then another one is Lisa Kleypas. She is probably my favorite. She hasn't written a historical novel in a long time, and I'm really sad about it. I want her to write more. Ugh, I love her. I know some people, I really only read her English set novels. I think I read one of her, set in Louisiana or the Caribbean ones, and I didn't really like those. So I would suggest sticking with her English-based ones. And she, again, has, crazy overlapping series. It's crazy. So, one of her series that's really good is the Wallflower Series. It's a series of 4 books, and it follows these 4 women who meet in London, and they're all wallflowers. So you have a girl who is from a fairly good family, but she's very poor, so she has to deal with that, and she ends up marrying a commoner. He's wealthy, he's made money, but she has to deal with what that means. And then 2 sisters who are Americans, so everyone's Americans. And then this girl named Evie, who is the daughter of a gambling club owner. Is that the right? He owns a gambling club, and she's very quiet, and she has a stutter and things. And this is actually Evie's story, and I have to say, this is the hero in this book. He is one of the best heroes, and he's the perfect rake turned to reformed husband ever. And Sarah Maclean said that in an interview with Sarah Wendell on the DBSA podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're my soulmate, because I totally agree. This one is fantastic. And then another series, the Wallflower series, is very good. And then another series I really like is The Hathaways, I guess. This is the first one. It's called Mine Till Midnight. What's really interesting about this series is 2 of the girls in this series. This is about a family of 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. There's a couple of really interesting things. One is 2 of the young women, including the heroine in this one, Amelia, end up marrying gypsies, and like Romany gypsies, which even to this day are kind of persecuted in England and Great Britain, but then it was like horrible to even associate with them, so you have those issues. The other interesting thing is the brother in here has a huge growth arc throughout the series. Like, normally with romance in general and historical, you can read them out of order, but with this series in particular, I would suggest reading them in order just so you can get his growth fully and understand where he came from. And then if you're looking for a good, like, lighter read, I would definitely suggest Julia Quinn. I think a lot of people think of Julia Quinn when they think of historical, especially for lighter reads, especially the Bridgerton series, which is a series about 8 siblings, and each book follows their love story, and they are, let me see if I can name them all. Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Hyacinth, and Gareth. And so you start with Daphne's story and the Duke and I, and then continue on from there. And it's fun because you get like the family dynamics and you get to see the kids grow up, and also the stories are really fun. My favorite is this one, The Viscount Who Loved Me. In this series I probably would read in order, but you don't have to. Book I really like by her is What Happens in London, and this is probably a good introduction to historical if you're looking for one, because it's not super sexual, so if that kind of puts you off, you might enjoy this. It's like a gentle introduction, and this is just really fun and enjoyable, but all of her books, for the most part, I would say are nice. A couple other authors that I don't have books to show you for. Sarah Maclean, quickly becoming a favorite of mine. She doesn't have a ton of books out, but what she has is really, really good. Anything she's written, check it out. And then Eloisa James, also, she does have a ton of books. Eloisa James is really interesting to me because she's actually a college professor. She's like a Shakespeare professor, I believe. And while the romance genre is filled with intelligent, like higher educated women and just educated women and intelligent women in general, I think it's really interesting that she's like a literature professor writing romance. And I kind of run hot and cold with her. Some of her books I don't like as much as others, but when I do like them, I really, really, really like them. And the one thing that I really like about her and why I want to mention her is she deals a lot with relationships between women. So a lot of times romance can skew to just being the romance story, and she really spends a lot of time focusing on good and positive relationships between women, but like sisterly relationships and friendships as well. And then some popular authors in historical that I have not read. The first one is Loretta James. I know she's really popular. Her one book, Lord of Scoundrels, everyone says it's like the romance novel to end all romance novels. And I get it at the library, like I pick it up all the time, and then I just like never check it out for some reason. I don't know if I'm like afraid it'll disappoint me or what. But she is very popular. And then Lorraine Heath. I've actually technically read a Lorraine Heath book, I'm pretty sure. She wrote an Avon like teen romance, and I read that. Meg Cabot wrote a couple as well. But I am actually currently reading one of her books, so like I guess technically I've read one and I'm enjoying it immensely. But Lorraine Heath is supposed to be spectacular, and I first really heard about her again when Sarah Maclean was interviewed by Sarah Wendell. She was saying that she thinks Lorraine Heath is like a highly underrated author. Like, she is a best-selling author, but she's just not talked about like a lot like some of the others. If you have any historical recommendations, or you want to say anything about the people I recommended or books I recommended, let me know down in the comments. And thanks for watching. Bye!